Hello friends, let's discuss another interesting question that is normally asked in C++ technical interview. My today's pick would be write a program that will compile in both C and C++ but produce a different result. What the interviewer expects here is whether you know the common differences between the coding standards of C and C++. So let's get started. For better understanding, I have here one file that compiles in C and one file that compiles in C++. First point you can point out is a character literal is treated differently in case of C and C++. Here I have a function which prints out the size of a character literal A, and here I have the caller function. Now let's compile this in C. Let's run it. The output is 4 bytes. As you know, a character literal is 1 byte of size, but then C has printed out 4 bytes. Why is it so? Because C treats its character literals like int. Now let's compile the same in C++ and see the output. The output here is 1 byte, which is the exact size of the character literal. The second interesting point is a struct tag is a must whenever we create a struct variable in C, but this is not needed in case of C++. Here if you see, I have declared a struct T which has a double member X, and then I'm trying to print the size of the struct T. But here I'm not explicitly mentioned the struct tag. Same way, one more point to be noticed here is I have a global int T. Now let's see which T it considers to print out the size of in case of C. As you can see, the output is 4 bytes. Again, 4 bytes is a size of int T that we have declared in the global scope. And as you see, the structure has double X, so it should have printed 8 if it considered the struct T in this case. Let's compile the same in C++. The output is 8. So it printed out the size of the struct T and not the global T. And one more point is C++ considered that struct T is in local and it ignored the global scope and considered the local scope. The third point that you can bring into your interviewer's notice is when you have a struct F in global scope and a function F declared, then C and C++ treats them differently. Here if you see, I have a struct F which takes in integer member function and it's in the global scope. Same ways, with the same F, I have a function named with below the int main and it prints hello. Now in C compilation, let's see which function, whether it picks up the function or the structure. It prints out hello, which is there in the function. So it did not consider the structure at all. Let's compile the same in C++ and see the output. Here also I have the same structure declaration in the global scope and I have a function declaration below int main which prints hello. Let's compile this and build this. Here the output is nothing. So it never considered the function which is declared below int main, and as you know in C++ even if you don't have this structure declaration in the top and then you compile this, it would have failed. So this function declaration that we have put into place in int main actually picked up the struct F in the global. The fourth point that you can point out is in C any undefined macro evaluates to 0, and in C++ there is an exception to that. That is, if there is a true, then it is evaluated to true. To understand this, let's uncomment this section of code. here I have defined if true then print true, else print false. Let's compile this first. Let's run it. So it printed out false. So any undefined macro is evaluated to false in case of C. Let's compile the same in C++. Here if true then return true, else return false. So I've compiled it. Let's run it. The answer is true. So here we have said in C++ there is an exception. If true, it is evaluated to true. The fifth point is the comma operator performs lvalue to rvalue conversion in C but not in C++. Here if you see, I have a character array of 100 size, and then I have declared a integer variable which takes the size of 0, array. So what do you think would be the output of this? Normally it should be 100, right? So let's compile and see what the output is. The output in case of C, it's 4. It's because it performs lvalue to rvalue conversion in case of C. Let's see the output. The output is 100. This is the case in case of C++. The sixth point is one of the most interesting point you can point out, and it says in both C and C++ one can define nested structure types, but the scope is interpreted differently. Here if you see, I have a structure A in the global scope which has a double member and it is of size 32. So normally A size would be 32 into 8, that will be 256. Now there is one more structure which is defined inside the int main. Here there is structure B which has a nested structure A and it has member variables of short type A and B, and then I am trying to print out the size of A. What do you think will be the output of this? Normally in C what happens is the scope resolution operator is not there, and one more thing is in C structures contained in other structures get put into the scope of the outer structure. So here the outer structure is B. So let's see what the output is. The output is 4 and not 32 into 8 because it considered the outer structure. Let's compile the same in C++ and see the output. Let's see the output. The output, as I said, is 256. That's all folks. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, as I will be posting some more interesting questions in my future videos. Also do suggest in the comment section any questions or concepts you would like me to discuss in my next videos. Bye bye.